And of course, in 1999, by the way, would have been the largest tax in this county. Gas tax, impact fees, you remember that? For transit, yeah. I don't believe that, Ed. I don't believe that, Ed. Okay, all right. But be as it may, TBX I oppose, so I just do that. I mean, we all know what it's doing to communities.
The first part is TBX. Are you for or against it? The second part
I thought the question was why we haven't raised the gas tax.
The second part is, do you support the nickel a gallon local option gas tax, 5 cents tax?
Well, there needs to be a plan. That's all I'm saying. There needs to be a plan. We talk about in terms of transit. Let's look at the developing plan. You know, that goes back to the issue you talked about here. Do you want to raise tax? No, you look at it and develop a plan. Then you look at how you want to do all that.
Okay, Pat?
Yes, I support raising the gas tax. Yes, I support a sales tax and would vote for it willingly. I want a plan that is a 21st century transportation plan that will take cars off the road and do what we need to do for the future of this county. That's not the plan we have right now. We have about 60% dedicated to roads, about 40% transit, and a mishmash of projects, both road and transit, and only 10% to transit operations. So we need to do that. TBX. I am opposed to TBX going through 275. I think it needs to, it can go down Veterans and 75. There's scale to that if they want to. But I think what people don't realize about TBX, it's the first place in the nation where there's going to be a separate roadway that's built. It's going to be paid for with our taxpayer dollars. They call it a tollway, but all of our revenues will go to pay for it. The tolling on the road only goes to pay for the cost of electronic tolling. So it's a subsidy that we are paying for a road for the wealthiest people. It has entryways only at Avila and Bears, downtown and West Shore. It's a sprawl machine to bring people down from Pasco County. It's not a transit option, and it's not a good option for our future.
Thank you, Pat. John Dick?
It's all in how you phrase things. I am for equalization of tax revenues. Doesn't that sound better than tax increases? It's all in how you phrase things. Regarding TBX, let me just be so bold as to jump out here. Unlike my other Democratic colleagues, all of whom I really like, I'm in favor of TBX. There's some issues behind it. There's issues behind every single thing. But let me point out, while Pat and others talk about the problems coming through here, let me just remember to point out, hey, look, it does a lot of things. It first of all is going to fix malfunction junction finally, once and for all. Second, it's going to fix and totally replace the northern span of the Howard Franklin Bridge, which is becoming a death trap. It has been designed such that right down the middle of it will be able to run transit, whether it's rail or buses, or like Tim wants with sky buses and sky trims, etc. But it gives us that opportunity. There is something wrong with everything if you pick it apart. But if you continue to pick it apart and you say no to everything, we'll never accomplish anything. The future of Hillsborough County is too important to every single one of us, and particularly to my 8th generation granddaughter. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Tim?
Okay, well, first, not in favor of SkyTram. Don't know where that came from. I am in favor of new technologies and where our transportation is going over the long term. So first to your question, to answer both of your questions. TBX, I'm in favor of TBX, but not in its current state. Because first and foremost, what TBX doesn't account for is it assumes along the I-275 corridor that it's the current plan shows a single lane, express lane in each direction. But that's not really how traffic moves. How traffic moves is we have a traditional, or what we call traditional commute, more traffic coming into the city in the morning, out in the afternoon. So why would we not install reversible lanes into that space? The reason for reversible lanes is one, they take up a smaller footprint, so they take up less of a space and less impact to the local neighborhoods around them. The other thing TBX does, it starts addressing our biggest traffic issues. Malfunction Junction, Veterans, Kennedy, Howard Franklin corridors, and the corridors coming in. The new population growth that's coming is not coming to the urban core. The bulk of it is going to East County and South County, and we have to think about that when we're making these plans. The last is the 5% sales tax. 5% sales tax, I'm opposed to doing that first. We have, 5% gas tax, excuse me, sales tax.
It's called the local option gas tax.
Yes, I'm familiar with the local option gas tax.
5 cents a gallon?
I'm opposed to doing that first, because I think there are opportunities there to do so in the existing budget, looking at our future growth. I think absolutely without question, but is it something that we can look at on a short-term basis if the current budget doesn't allow? Thank you, Tim.
Brian?
John, I think Ed wants to know about the sky trains. He was really, I saw him, he was interested. So, Ed's a friend, Okay, it's good, we are. TBX, like I was out in front of this issue, I wrote an op-ed in the Tampa Tribune called The $9 Billion Question, about why this was a problem for the community. We have so many other needs. If there's anything that the Go Hillsborough public outreach process taught us, is that there's wide agreement in this community that we can no longer continue to put so much money into only a single mode of transportation. And so I've been opposed to TBX from the beginning. I think it's a bad idea. They need to come back to the table. They need to pull it off the table, look at ways that we can give ourselves transit, like they built Sunrail in Orlando, and then talk about what are the needs on our road. We should no longer be in a place where we're spending all our money on only a single piece of transportation infrastructure. Here's the problem with the gas tax. Raise it eventually, but only when it goes to transit. Right now, we raise the gas tax, all of that money is going to go to roads. And that's unacceptable, because 60% of jobs in this community are not accessible by transit. And so you're taxing somebody who's making an average of $30,000 a year, and you're raising their ability, making it more expensive for them to get to work. That's a problem. So gas tax, not yet.
Okay, this is the last question. It's almost 1:30, and I've got to... This is a new member, the last question. So it's 1:30. I got ring the last time I went over, 1:15, so you can imagine the next memo I'm going to get.
Thank you. I know we talked about TBX. Oh, Rochelle Reback, brand new member today. Susan called me out. I know we have been talking about TBX, but I want to be more specific because the MPO is going to take up this issue on June 22nd. So I'd like to know, it's true that what Mr. Dix said, that TBX is a compilation of different things. But the other day at the MPO Livable Roadways Committee, Lisa Monteleone made a motion to decouple the TBX toll lane segments of the plan, which were segments 7 and 8, from the TBX interchange and bridge improvement segments, which are 4 and 6. That did not pass, but I want to know your position on it. If we could decouple the toll lanes position.
You're over by 30 seconds.
I didn't know how it worked, I'm new. So if we could decouple it, would you agree with that? Thank you.
You're killing me. Okay. All right, Susan, you owe me. All right. Okay, go ahead.
All right, we start. Well, I grew up here, and let me just roads in general, right? I grew up here. I grew up in Carrollwood. I remember when they built the Veterans Expressway. Does anybody else remember when they built the Veterans Expressway? You could do 80 from Lutz down to downtown, and you could get there in 15 minutes. It doesn't work. When you build roads, it promotes sprawl. And what TBX is, I think, is really about opening up Pasco County to development. You know, I remember when I was growing up here, the northern portion of sort of the suburbs stopped at Bears. You know, they built Northdale. It was called Northdale because it was the North Dale. And then we just keep building these roads further and further out. And it's unacceptable. We're compromising the quality of life in our community. What's so critical is that balance that we have here now between urban, suburban, and rural. And if we keep pushing development further and further out into the community, then it's going to be a problem. So I support anything that helps protect this neighborhood, promotes transit, protects that balance. I don't know if pulling out those segments is enough, though, to solve the problem.
Thank you. Tim?
Well, as I've mentioned, I believe in moving people efficiently and effectively. And so one of the things I mentioned about TBX was reversible lanes, but one of the other things that I don't love about it is the phasing, how it works. Now, what happens is the first phase actually is the least congested along the plan, right? Of all the phases, phase 1 addresses the least congested area first. Why would we start there? You're basically starting at the back end. You should start and put first things first. Put the areas that need the most work first. And that's something that we do need to address right away. The other is when we talk about transit options and everything else and proposals for light rail here in the urban core, keep in mind the engineer's estimate for a light rail line from downtown to West Shore is about 9,000 passengers per day. Let me give you a statistic that'll blow your mind. In Sun City Center, there are 12,000 registered golf carts. The golf carts in Sun City Center move 25% more people per day than that proposed light rail will. Let's do things that work. And so for surface transportation, we have to look at something with transit. We used to say you had to do the golden triangle. You have to save them time, save them money, save them stress. If you don't do that, they're not giving up their car keys.
Thank you, Tim. John Dixon.
I am very sensitive to the concerns that some of the folks have addressed with TBX, particularly those of you that have been concerned about some of the destructions in the neighborhoods. Anytime you make a change, it has an effect on people. DOT could do a much better job than what they've done in reaching out. I know that a couple of times when I was mayor of Plant City, we had to reach out and we had to do some same sort of things, working with some properties, either taking them by eminent domain or taking them voluntarily. It was only through good communication and reaching out that we were able to successful and make everyone happy. The same thing has to be done with TBX. But let me just point out, those who are saying no to TBX because that money could be spent much better in transit, we don't have that option. It's much like the high-speed rail that was going to come across the state, and Governor Scott said, no, we're not going to take it. That $3 billion didn't stay here to help solve our problems. It went to California. And if we turn down the money on TBX, guess what? It's going to stay in Florida, but it's not going to be here. There's issues with everything, but overall, it's a good project. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Pat?
We need to make sure that the money stays here in Tampa Bay. Paul Steinman, I know of the FDOT, has said it won't, but it's up to us, our leadership, our county commission, our MPO, to make sure that the money is used and directed in the way that we see best moving forward for our community. It's not just me. Gabe Klein, a national transportation expert, came to Tampa and called this the worst road plan in America. This plan, you know, it's going to funnel traffic, all this traffic into downtown and West Shore. Where are those cars going to park? How are they going to get around on constrained roadways? It won't serve with entrances just at Avila. It's not going to serve Busch Gardens, USF, any of East Tampa, West Tampa, Forest Hills, South Tampa. You know, any of these areas, it doesn't serve our county, it goes through our county. So I don't look at it as a benefit at all to us, and a bad traffic engineering plan, and not something we should be spending $6 to $9 million on. I will tell you too, that FDOT bought for Miami and Orlando, the CSX tracks in those communities without a sales tax or anything, for them to use for commuter rail in advance of doing anything like this. And we should be demanding the same for our community here. We need to have plans that can change this, and we need to have FDOT's investment in them.
Thank you, Pat. Reverend Scott?
Well, I think you've heard all that in terms of TBX. I'm opposed to it in the current form. Let me just say I'm somewhat disappointed that the question was not raised. What other option we have, in that the county commission refused to let us vote on it. Let me give you this in closing. There's a 1 cent sales tax that we use right now for called indigent health care. If you expand the Medicaid match and affordable health care, you will not need that 1 cent. Ohio did it, Arizona is doing it, Michigan is doing it. And so what happens is by expanding that, all the indigent care will be taken care of, and it frees up that 1 cent. Take that 1 cent that was implemented by the Board of County Commission under Phyllis Biscansky during that time, which did not go to a referendum. The Board of County Commission imposed that tax. And so you take that tax, and you remember that, Ed, take that tax, use that 1 cent, which would use, is up to 1 cent though. It goes up 1 cent. We rolled it back. It goes in 1 cent. And so use that tax to use for mass transit. That will help you, and it will keep from raising your tax and all these other taxes that you have. That's my solution. That's my suggestion in terms of addressing the issue of mass transit in Hillsborough County.
Thank you.
You have a tax on the book that if you expand Medicaid, the match, and affordable health care will free up that 1 cent to use for mass transit.
Thank you, Reverend Scott. And now, You're going to have 30 seconds. Go ahead and wrap it up. Give your last pitch. 30 seconds each. Reverend Scott, go ahead.
All right. Well, listen, I know I sound a lot like a preacher today, so you have to forgive me for that. It just in me. But listen, I've enjoyed being here. Thank you for being here. Thanks for inviting me. Most of you all know me. You know me. I have a record. I have a record. You go check out my record, look up my record. I have a record of fighting for mass transit in this community. I have a record for affordable housing, fighting for affordable housing. I have a record for bringing economic development. I have a record of being a voice of reason on the board. I have a record of being able to persuade the Board of County Commission and vote with me. Thank you very kindly.
Thank you, Reverend Scott. Pat, wrap it up, 30 seconds.
I've been out there for decades doing the same thing I'm asking to do as a county commissioner now, and that is working on transit and transportation and bringing a 21st century transportation plan to Hillsborough County, smart growth, creating town centers, changing the way that we do land management in this county, bringing and supporting local and entrepreneurial new business, and one thing we haven't talked about, 100% renewable Hillsborough County. By 2050, we can do it. It'll bring a lot of jobs, and it will save a lot of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, Pat. John?
The important thing is let's not get caught up in the weeds. Let's be bold, creative, visionary. Not long ago, I was invited as a guest to go to Northern California to visit the Tesla factory. I was so impressed. They let me drive one of the autonomous cars. It's absolutely astounding what can be done. And I'm sitting there, standing there, talking to the folks and wondering, why is that here and not in Florida? They may have Silicon Valley, but my goodness, why don't we have Silicon Beach? We've got the room, we've got the roadways, the arteries, the north, south, the east, west. Let's be creative, let's be innovative, let's look to the future rather than being mired in the past. We can do this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Tim, 30 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for participating today. Thank you for the questions. I know it's hot, but thank you for turning up the heat in here, and thank you for bringing the roar. So, in addition to thanking you, I want to leave you with this. We need new voices, and we need new perspectives on our county commission. It's vital to our future to embrace those new ideas. I hope you will raise the attention of this race here locally, because this is important. It's important for our future. Thank you again. Again, let's shock the county commission. Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Willis?
My name's Brian Willis. I'm running to bring new leadership to Hillsborough County Commission. Let me tell you what that means. I'm so excited about where we are as a community. You look at what's happening in downtown Tampa. You look at what's happening in the historic streetcar neighborhoods. You look at Temple Terrace that's trying to build, an urban core in Temple Terrace. You look at our nationally and world-renowned food scene and beer scene and our growing local art scene. It is so exciting. But the discussion we are having here today, if you turned on and watched the Committee of 99, it might have been deja vu to be talking about money for transit. And so I agree, it is time to turn the page. That is why we need new leadership. We need to bring a new generation into power and start moving forward, solving our generational challenges as a community. Thank you so much. Brian
Thank
Willis.
you. Let's have a big round of applause for our 5 candidates who showed up. And don't forget, the next debate we have will be at the Cuban Club, June the 10th. It's going to be June the 3rd with the property appraiser. And now the big announcement, thanks to our Tiger Bay Tiger Committee, the winning Garfield Award goes to Ed Taranchek. Thank you, Ed. He caused the most stink in the whole place.